first, you hear the children and babies crying and then silence after. What are the spookiest audio or video clips on the internet? Operation Wandering Soul. The US government was coming up with new ways of luring the Viet Cong out of the jungles during the Vietnam War. They came up with this disturbing and creepy audio recording of what sounds like spirits of the undead calling out to the Viet Cong. The US military would play this audio at night to try to bring out the Viet Cong from their hiding spots and demoralize them. Just imagine being in the middle of a jungle late at night and hearing that on full blast, not knowing where it's coming from or what it is. Stephen McDaniel being interviewed on the local news about his missing neighbor, who he had killed and dismembered, and learning mid-interview that her body had been found. The link also contains footage that he shot of the victim through her window the night he killed her. This was creepy the way he shut down when they said body, you could see his soul leave his body. I find the World War I battle sounds to be scary. It's just extremely loud sounds of firearms going off and artillery crashing down, but you can't make out one single shot. They're all clumped together in what sounds like hell. To think soldiers would endure this during a battle for hours, days, even weeks at a time makes me feel for the poor soldiers. Since this is blowing up, I recommend increasing the volume of the video up to the max and listen with your eyes closed for the full immersion. I'd also recommend this video that visualizes the brutality of the war and the effects, shell shock and injuries, it gave on the men, with a mixture of real footage from World War I and recreational films based on the war. I remember one audio of a woman screaming while a chimpanzee was eating her face, or something like that. I heard it a long time ago, so I don't remember the details. Her friend was on the phone begging for help and the call was recorded. I don't remember the audio itself, but I do remember I felt terrible after hearing it. She lost her eyes, lips, face, ears, fingers, nose. It really fucked her up sadly. In the call, you can hear a classic chimpanzee screech, and the dispatcher thought it was fake but sent an officer there. The chimp tried the passenger door of the police car, locked. The chimp then punched the mirror off and started his way to the driver door, and the officer shot the shit out of the chimp and it ran inside and died by its cage. I remember it from years ago as well. I'd be terrified of chimps if they just roamed around. Some dark facts about chimpanzee. 1. They cannibalize their enemies. 2. They wage wars that last for years. 3. They make weapons and plan attacks. 4. They dominate through violence. 5. Baby chimpanzee play with weapons. 6. They rape and beat their mates. 7. They prostitute themselves for food. 8. There are chimpanzee serial killers. Well, close to humanity? There are also incredibly high rates of infanticide in chimps. They'll kill the young of competing males. They often do it by dismemberment and occasionally cannibalize them. This phone call that the Golden State Killer made to one of his previous victims. Those too nervous to venture, it's a short clip of a woman saying hello? Then loud breathing and whispering, 3 times, gonna kill you. Pretty spooky. If I received that call, the next call on my log would be the cops. 2003 Station nightclub concert. Pyrotechnics were used irresponsibly, causing foam to catch fire, which then spread to the surroundings and engulfed the building in flames within a matter of minutes. 100 people lost their lives. So many things in this video still give me chills when I think about it, the screams, the sheer magnitude of it all, and the time it took people to register what happened. And how quickly it all happens. 1 minute there's smoke, then people crammed in the doorway, then screaming, then nothing. All within like 5 minutes. Completely wild, but a good lesson in the dangers of fire. The Versailles Wedding Hall disaster. It was a fairly lucrative event hall in Jerusalem. The contractor who built the hall cut some corners and it was not up to specs. In particular, they misused a newly invented building material called pal-cal. Then, on May 24, 2001, during a wedding, the entire dance floor collapsed into the ground floor. 23 people died, including the bride. The inventor of pal-cal was then sentenced to 4 years in jail, which is weird on its own. There is a very unpleasant video of the crash. The song in the background is called, roughly translated, I Have a Golden Heart, which was an incredibly major hit by a very popular singer, Sarit Haddad. Look her up, you'll probably won't like her style, but she has an unbelievable voice, which since the incident decided never to perform it again. So one of the stickiest, catchiest, and frankly a bit annoying songs of the decade became a symbol for negligent catastrophe. The bride didn't die, she was heavily injured but survived. They fell from the third floor to the ground floor. The bride was badly injured but survived. There's a horrific interview, in Hebrew, where the groom tells how he carried her out of there unconscious, though at the time he couldn't tell if she was alive. The contractors also went to jail, each for 2 years, while Eli Ron, the inventor of Pal Cal, did 4. The video narration is in Dutch apparently. The music and the sings are all in Hebrew. The last frame show volunteers from Zaka, initials for Disaster Victims Identification, a Haredi, that is, ultra-Orthodox, organization that cleans up death scenes from human remains and prepares them for burial. The 911 calls. There are 2 disturbing ones from the towers where people die on the phone, one where an Asian woman suffocates and becomes engulfed by flames and another where the building collapses on a man. Also, in the 1970s a park guest recorded audio of a Disney employee being crushed to death. Kevin Cosgrove crushed to death on phone. Melissa DOI suffocates from smoke on phone, full recording never released. Disneyland. Note, though the incident is real, I've been told that the audio scream heard in the video is an overlay. America sings crushed to death. The Disneyland attraction is a rotating theater. As the theater was changing scenes, she was caught in between the pillars and was completely crushed. The massacre of Jonestown is spooky. First, you hear the children and babies cry and then silence after. They all drank some poison and killed themselves because their leader Jim Jones said so. There's a recording of an interview with Ted Bundy on YouTube, in which halfway through he suddenly whispers something. I had earphones on when I was listening to it and it scared the shit out of me, felt like he was right behind me. The video of Elisa Lam in the elevator before her death. I just have no idea what she's doing. People, it's clear that there's someone off camera and I get why they say that, but I don't think anything is clear. She's acting so strange and then to turn up dead a few days later. So sad and unsettling. Ever hear about the toy box killer transcripts? If you absolutely want to have your day ruined, this has to be one of the most disturbing, creepiest things ever. Serial killer David Parker Ray would play these tapes for his victims, so they had an idea of what was coming and to also mentally break them. Hear the start of one tape to give you an idea. Hello there, bitch. Are you comfortable right now? I doubt it. Wrists and ankles chained. Gagged. Probably blindfolded. You are disoriented and scared, too, I would imagine. Perfectly normal, under the circumstances. For a little while, at least, you need to get your shit together and listen to this tape. It is very relevant to your situation. I'm going to tell you, in detail, why you have been kidnapped, what's going to happen to you and how long you'll be here. I don't know the details of your capture, because this tape is being created July 23, 1993 as a general advisory tape for future female captives. Now granted we don't actually have the audio of the tapes, but this guy does a pretty good job of showing how sick and terrifying those tapes are. There is an audio clip on it called the bloop, I'm sure you have seen it. Basically, an unidentified sound recorded in the ocean a few years back believed to be from an animal, but the sound is so loud it couldn't have been from any animal we know of. Apparently much louder than a blue whale, suggesting there is a huge unknown monster chilling in the ocean. Supposedly it was debunked to be an ice quake, essentially an iceberg hitting the sea floor. From what I remember, that was simply the most logical answer next to a sea creature. The recording is slowed down to make it audible. It's scary if emo. The first audio ever recorded back in 1860. It's of a woman singing Eau Claire de la Lune. It sounds so eerie and in my opinion, she sounds like a ghost. You can barely hear the words in the song from how distorted the audio is. I was a bit shaken when I went to sleep that night. This guy on YouTube that just sits in front of the camera for hours and he uploads his staring sessions daily. The Loneliest Whale. From what I recall, it's a sound they've recorded several times, but never found the whale itself. Its call is a higher frequency than any other that they've recorded and only ever seems to be from one. Howling planets, whistling plasma waves, and pelting space rocks. The sounds of space are spooky and NASA compiled a list of them. The atmosphere of Saturn's moon Titan resembles the static noise coming off a TV, with a rhythmic sound going on and off in the background. It is the unknown that spooks us. I'm so late on this and pissed because my entry will probably be seen by no one. In 1957, two aircraft collided above a school in Tacoma, California, killing 8 people. During the crash, the principal was giving an assembly which was recorded. You can hear the plane approaching the school in the recording. Spooky part, it was the school of Richie Valens, but he wasn't in that day. The event made him terrified of flying, and he was famously killed alongside Buddy Holly and Big Bopper in a crash 2 years later. Video shot by a scuba diver who was exploring a blue hole, got caught by the down current and pulled to the bottom, where he ran out of air and suffocated. You can hear the poor guy scream through his regulator as he realizes that he's going to die. Fucking chilling. I am a scuba diver, but having seen this, down currents and blue holes can fuck right off. I'm going nowhere near either of them. Grave robbing for morons. This video of a guy giving a guide on grave robbing has been circulating on VHS tapes since the 1990s, and as far as I know has yet to be explained, and the man remains unidentified. One lunatic, one ice pick. If you've watched Don't FK with Cats on Netflix, you'll know what I mean. Or if you've watched the real video. You should probably stick to Don't FK with Cats on Netflix though. I watched the actual clip and it freaked me out so bad I couldn't sleep for weeks. Black box audio recordings. http://www.planecrashinfo.com/lastwords.htm. Also, the mentally ill guy that screams for his dad while police beat him to death. I'm not going to look that one up because I hate it. When I was younger, I saw people on 9gag talking about some video of some Czech or Hungarian teenagers that started off by killing cats and then went on to kill homeless people, if I remember right. I was curious and I watched that video, and it was the most disgusting, disturbing piece of visuals that I've ever seen. I won't ever be able to get those images out of my head. The audio and video clips of the Tukjar massacre are spookiest according to me. The extremists slice the throats of Russian soldiers slowly. Screaming and viewing a throat being sliced is horrific. The audio from that scene in the Grizzly Man documentary from 2005. The documentary is about Timothy Treadwell, a conservationist living with grizzly bears on an Alaskan reserve. When one of the bears he protected turns on him and his partner. There was a video of a Chinese dude who could do parkour and he always climbed big tall buildings, and there was one clip at the end of the tribute where he was slowly losing his grip and you could see the despair he was in. It got to the point where he was slipping so bad on this really big skyscraper he gave up and just jumped off. Screamed the whole way down. One that personally struck me was the Queen's Day crash, on 29th April 2009, in the Netherlands. On Queen's/King's Day we celebrate the birthday of whoever sits on the throne, and it's just basically like a huge party in the Netherlands, and the royals visit a new city every year. So that year it was in Apeldoorn, and the car slammed through the fences onto the square where a lot of people were gathered to see the royals, and people were just launched through the air and then filmed as they lay on the ground lifelessly. The panic and screams are also quite haunting. It's not necessarily as bad as the rest on here, but I watched this on live television when I was about 8. Stayed with me forever. 2 things. In 2009 I went on to YouTube or Google videos and a featured video started automatically playing. Before I could register what it was, I realized it was footage of the death of Neda Aga Sultan. It made my blood run cold, especially as I hadn't expected it. She was shot dead at an election protest in Iran, and the way you see her bleeding from her mouth has never left me. Another video that haunts me is one of a group of young girls at the Ariana Grande concert at Manchester Arena. The show has ended, they're filming themselves with the pink balloons they've caught, and when they hear the huge bang of the bomber outside, and then everyone just starts screaming and surging towards the exits. It's just heartbreaking. I'm from Manchester and that attack will never cease to make me feel sick to my stomach. So many children. Phew. So I'm off to binge watch cartoons or something to cheer myself up now. There's one they showed a new recruits in police academy, allegedly, never been so I don't know, which shows a rookie cop pulling over an obviously very drunk Vietnam vet. Vet gets out, dances around, dares the cop to shoot my ass and just acts all kinds of crazy. Cop tries to reason with him, vet grabs his gun and a firefight breaks out. Cop is wounded behind his car, crying. Vet comes around and stands over him while he begs for his life. Vet screams "Die fucker!" and shoots him in the head, then gets into his truck and peels out. He was in his early 20s, a newlywed with a baby at home, and his screams will never leave you. I remember hearing the 911 call from Columbine. I've never heard fear like in the voice of the woman calling, whereas in the background all you can hear are shots being fired and Eric and Dylan laughing and making jokes. Was pretty fucked. Thank you for watching Reddit Space. Please subscribe if you love these Reddit stories.